Yep.
Hi, I'm Spencer. I'm from Freedom Physical Therapy Services, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the importance of being able to do a full unweighted squat. It's a full body weight squat. Squats are definitely a real popular exercise, but first and foremost, the squat is a normal human movement that humans have done since the dawn of being a human. And unfortunately, in today's society, we don't get into a full squat like we used to. Importance of being able to go into a full squat is it helps maintain really good hip mobility, helps spread synovial fluid throughout the joints of the hips. They've done studies that have shown that countries that still utilize a full squat, whether that's to go to the bathroom or to wait, for something, have better hip integrity than countries that don't perform full squats on a regular basis. Other important aspects is that it helps keep your spine healthy by improving pelvis and spine dynamics. It's good for the knees overall. Again, just bring them through full ranges of motion. So lots of important things. From a functional standpoint, it's a normal human resting position. It's a normal position for humans to go to the bathroom. It's a really good lift technique, So, definitely training the squat in the gym with weight is important for developing strength. But coming back to that function piece, most often when we go to lift something up off the ground from a squat, it's on the ground. It's not perfectly positioned for us on a rack that we just step up to. So oftentimes we have to get down into that low position first and foremost to be able to pick that object up. So from a functional standpoint, very important that you're able to get down onto the ground as well. But before we train anything with weight, you want to be able to do it with really good technique, unweighted, and learn how to control those motions first with your body weight and then lead into using weight. So first I'll show just right off the bat what a good squat looks like. So I'll kind of maybe face the camera this way. And as you're coming down, you want to maintain a good upright chest. You want to not have your legs way turned out. Your feet can be straight forward, maybe a few degrees out if that's more comfortable, but ideally just nice and easy upright position and just, hang out. So that's a really good resting position. If you were lifting something up off the ground, I would kind of do the same thing. I'm going to get real close to whatever I'm planning on lifting up, kind of straddle over top, kind of work my hands underneath, get a hold of it. I'm a little bit braced, and I can come straight up with it. So that's the importance of being able to do a squat. Lots of times, issues that people might have that limit being able to get into a full squat involve lack of range of motion in the ankles, lack of range of motion in the knees, lack of range of motion in the hips, maybe lack of range of motion in the spine. And then sometimes if you have all those components, mobility-wise, if you have all that full range of motion and you still can't do it, perhaps it's just a control issue. Your brain is not used to being able to control all those dynamics happening at the same time. So what I'm going to do is go over a few tips to start working on improving all of those aspects to get you into a full squat. First one would be taking a look at your ankle mobility. So ankle mobility, if I have my foot up on here, I should be able to keep my heel down and come forward over to probably 30 to 40 degrees at the most. If you feel like you're only able to go as far as maybe 10, 20 degrees, you can still see your toes. That's not far enough. So you can start working on just some easy ankle mobility up on a chair or bench, trying to keep that heel down. You can use bands to help do some self ankle mobilizations as you're going through range of motion. I'm not going to get into that, but there are plenty of videos out there that demonstrate that, especially through physical therapists like Kelly Starrett. Look him up, he's got great videos on all of that. You can work, it might not be joint, it might be muscular, so you can work on, maybe some foam rolling, and then some stretching. You can do the classic runner stretch where you're stretching out those calf muscles. You can come off of a step and then your heels drop just to get that stretch. But ankle mobility is pretty paramount for doing a squat. When you're out in the gym, there are things that people do to kind of cheat a little bit to help optimize that. You can get lifting shoes that lift your heel up a little bit off the ground. Some people will stand on a 45-pound weight plate to get their heels up as they're squatting, and that's fine. But at the same time, I'm a big believer that you should be able to do it with what we have naturally, not using an aid all the time to be able to accomplish that task, because you're not always going to have your lifting shoes or something right there to put your heels up on. So really take the time to practice and get that range of motion. The next thing would be hip mobility. So working on some hip mobility exercises, sometimes starting off with just getting down on the ground into a hands and knees position. Try to keep your spine relatively in a neutral. And what you're going to do is just start to rock back as far as you can go and kind of get an assessment of do your hips move into this squat position. So if I was to flip this from this hands and knees position upright, it's the exact same position as a squat, but I'm not fighting gravity to be in there. So you can first off see, do you have the range of motion? If you're tight through your hips, which a lot of people are, you can work on a few other moves where you can work on kind of stretching out through your hips and get into this frog position and just work on pushing back into it. You can work on bringing the leg out and hitting both sides, all while trying to keep a fairly neutral spine. Next would be working a little bit on some of the mid-back mobility, the thoracic spine. Oftentimes we get pretty hunched forward and we lose that ability. So as we're coming down, we lose that ability to kind of keep the chest up. So one thing that you could do, sorry for moving around, so you could use a foam roll. And you can kind of come up to that mid-back portion and start with arching over. You can support your head here, you can reach out for a little more leverage, and segment by segment, you're just going to kind of bend back as far as you feel you can go. Sometimes you might hear a pop, and that's okay. And you're just spending time working on trying to gain a little bit more extension through your spine. After using the foam roller, whether to loosen up soft tissue or try to get some joint mobility, it's always good to follow that stuff up with an exercise to reinforce what you just did. So a nice one that I like to do, you're going to come down onto your knees. I like to put a forearm down right in the center here, other arm up behind your head, and work on rotating. So now what I'm doing is I'm rotating, but I'm extending through my mid-back. And I would do several on one side, several on the other side. You can set it up with your arm behind your back as well. That just sets up your shoulder blade on your rib cage a little bit different. Works things just slightly different, but good to hit from all angles. So after you're loosened up, now let's get into an exercise that starts to help you get down into that bottom position. So it's good to find something stable that's not going to move on you. If you're doing these at home, you can use the end of a couch. If you're at a gym, a weight bench works really nice. I'm going to get up real nice and close. And I'm going to do a hip hinge, kind of like if I was getting ready to do a deadlift, or I'm ready to do a standing long jump here. I'm going to grab onto the bench, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my hips down into that squat position. And I'm going to hold up nice and tall, and the bench is helping to prevent me from falling backwards if I'm not used to going into that position. Now, right off the bat, your body might not be used to going that deep. So, I mean, if you can get to here to start off with, and you're going to come back, then that's fine. It's a process that you're working on, eventually getting deeper. Once you get deep enough and you're comfortable in this position, relatively comfortable, you can now work on, can you let go, without falling backwards. Ultimate goal is to be able to let go fully. You could use a small weight and position it here and grab onto it to help counterbalance initially, and then as that becomes easy, bring it in closer and closer until you don't need it anymore. So that's a good exercise to start bringing you into that full squat position with gravity pulling down on you. After that, another exercise that I like to do for squats, we're going to come over to the lat pull-down machine. So if you are at a gym and you have access to a lat pull-down machine, or maybe a cable machine, position the cables up as high as they go, you're going to add a fairly significant amount of weight compared to your body size. And the idea is that you're just kind of like assisted pull-ups. You're unweighting your body to help you learn to get down and do a squat. So I'm going to hold on to the bar, keep my elbows straight, and now I'm going to think about trying to pull myself down into a squat. And if there's a seat, you might have to adjust and get around that seat. But I'm using the weight to kind of offset my own weight, and then I'm going to come back up. And I'm thinking about pulling myself down. In terms of progression with this, a progression would be reducing the amount of weight that you're using. So, if I'm able to do 10 of those pretty easy, and that's at 55 pounds, maybe next time I'll try 45 pounds or 40 pounds, eventually leading to 0 so that I can do it with my own body weight. If you don't have a cable machine or a lat machine, you can use something like a TRX. And the TRX, you're just using your arms to kind of help control that motion. So, initially I might be using my arms a lot. I use my arms to come up, and eventually doing it so where you're barely holding on, and you're just using it maybe to keep yourself upright. TRX, that's great because you can adjust on the fly how much pressure or weight that you're using. But a really good drill to kind of work on that down and up pattern of a full squat. And the last exercise that I like to help kind of put it all together in terms of that motor control of being able to go from full upright to down and back up is utilizing a wall. So what we'll do is grab a chair. And with these, typically when people squat, we see a lot of this happening, or their knees are coming way too far forward. So the wall is going to help keep you honest about how far you're pitching forward. The closer you are to the wall, the harder these are. So you can make them a little easier by maybe coming back a couple inches. I usually recommend having a chair behind the person for a couple different reasons. Reason one is that if you're going to fall backwards, it's going to catch you. Reason two is it's a goal to eventually work on hitting. Lots of times people can't do it right off the bat. So I'll have people position, maybe stack some pillows up, and your goal is just to tap your butt to the pillows. So I'm going to position nice and close, and all I'm doing is coming down, touch, and come back up. Once you're able to do that pretty easy, get rid of a pillow. And then get rid of another pillow until you just have the chair. And then see if you can come down, touch, come back up. Once that becomes easy, find something shorter to be your goal, and eventually working to where you can come down fully without falling backwards. And that's a really good exercise in that control portion. Once you establish all of those other criteria with the mobility first. Once you start to own your squat, practice it as much as possible. Whenever you're just hanging out waiting, I have little kids, so I'm always down on the ground, and this is a great position to be in when I'm hanging out with the kids. If I'm looking for something in a bag, I'll get down into a squat. Any opportunity that you can to maintain that squat is a really good opportunity. Once you master the full squat with just your body weight, then that's when I would definitely recommend start adding weight to it and training it like an exercise as well. But definitely establish that first with your own body weight. That's all I got. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.